I'm I was asked about doing a live stream chat again. So I'm doing another pop-up chit chat because one of the Qigong correspondents, hello, one of the Qigong correspondents sent me a link to a book by um, this academic on internal alchemy, and I happen to have the book. Hello, good morning. Um, the link I was sent by a Qigong's fellow Qigong student was just like a preview. So I'm like, I think I have this book. And so this guy, he's German, I think, but he's like an expert on Taoist internal alchemy. Fabio Fabrizio, or he must be Italian with that name. um I have several of his books, and so this, you can see these are big books. They're thick, lots of detail. And then this book I've actually read. Um Now I uploaded a paper on gold, on the secret of gold in what I think of the secret of gold in relativistic quantum physics, the color gold in terms of alchemy, if you consider it as non-commutativity, which is like whatever, scientists sort of ignore non-commutativity, or most of them do. Anyway, but when you think of it in terms of meditation, you have in science, the element gold absorbs blue light, and by when it absorbs blue light, it's actually would have been ultraviolet light, but because it's a relativistic quantum frequency and wavelength at the same time, then you have less energy required. So it's a lower frequency to absorb the blue light, and that's how you get the red, orange, and yellow spectrum that looks gold for the element gold. Now in meditation, the blue light would be the mercury, and I was just looking at this Awakening Reality book. I think somebody sent me. I just opened it up, and so it describes the mercury as the element of yin chi. Hey, you asked for a pop-up chat, so here we go. You can ask me. You can chit chat. But I had somebody send me a link for uh this book by this expert in internal alchemy. Actually, the link he sent me is a preview. Here, I'll post a link in the. Oh, I don't have the link. It was through the academia site, but let me type his name. Anyway, so I was just saying how the mercury would be blue light in my view, but it's considered actually the wood, the the true wood, I think it is, for the yin chi, and then the yang chi is metal. Now, okay, so basically in alchemy, what happens is the yin chi, when we have our eyes open, the yin chi rises up and goes out of our eyes, and that's the wood. And so that's called the red dragon. So it's red light, and so when you sleep at night, it goes to the liver. So the liver is the wood element as yin chi, but then when you have your eyes open, it comes out through the heart and goes out of the eyes. And I guess the tongue is also called the red dragon. So when you have your when you're talking, you're supposed to keep your tongue up against the roof of your mouth. Otherwise, you'll lose the yin chi out through the front channel going out. So they call that the red dragon. Now, so you want to turn that around through meditation. You close your eyes, and then slowly the red of the liver gets turned into green, which is wisdom. Now, in terms of science, the red's the blood, so the yin chi is in the blood, and of course, we know that chlorophyll is the same as the red blood as hemoglobin. So the chlorophyll is green, obviously, but it purifies the blood because the only difference between hemoglobin and chlorophyll is that chlorophyll has magnesium in the center of it, and hemoglobin has iron. And otherwise, they're the same like molecule or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so but so they can. Hello, are you interested in internal alchemy? Feel free to ask questions or comments, but I'm just like rambling here. Okay, so the the so that to get back to gold, you need to absorb blue light. So what you're doing is um that okay, so normally hey, yeah, I'm talking about I actually have this book that you sent me the link to this book, Nathan. So um all right, so the basic concept that I like about alchemy that I've read is that so the yin chi is wood. Now woods floats, right? And so for normal people, the wood floats, which means the yin chi is going out of the eyes, and the and metal sinks, and the metal is the yang chi. And so the metal for males, that's like substance, so it sinks and it gets lost out of the lower body. And so that's the big challenge. If you're trying to do alchemy, the big challenge is to try to reverse that normal process to create the elixir as the golden elixir. And so then the mercury is normally with the yin chi, um, but then and mercury would be a type of shen or spirit. So they also call that the Hun soul, which is like what you what you become after death. It's a type of yin shen, so it's powered by yin chi. So most people when they die, the spirit leaves and it's powered by the yin chi if, as a Hun soul, and then the pole soul stays with the body. And so I'm just thinking out loud here, but so you have to reverse those in alchemy. So in other words, since metal normally syncs with the yang chi has the pole soul, and so that stays with the body. But what you need to do is you need to take the mercury from the yin chi, this shen as the blue light, and you need to combine that with the yang chi. So now the mercury with the blue light of the yang chi will rise up. So the yang chi with substance sublimates up the back, and then the yin chi now has to be combined with the lead because the yin chi is wood, and wood normally floats, but when you put lead into wood, then it sinks back down. So you get the yin chi to reverse back down the front, so it sinks. And you do that by rotating the eyes. So on the heart, you rotate the eyes counterclockwise, and then on the I'm pretty sure about I might I might have to double check, but and then on the kidneys you rotate the eyes clockwise to sublimate, because basically like your clockwise would be sublimation and counterclockwise is down. And so by doing that, what you're doing is you're mixing the left and right eye, which is the yin, the for males at least, I don't know if, but it's probably reversed for females because females are yang internally, so they're like the original healers. So at any rate, so they say the left eye is yin qi, but then it's yang shen because when you see the other thing is that the yin qi and yang qi they both have a yin shen. So the yin shen is the pole soul for the yang qi, and the yin shen for the yin qi is the hun soul. And so again, based on the color of light, you have the blue and the red that you reverse. But then, okay, just a second. Let me finish my thought here. So the goal is to make the or one of the final goals is this yang shen, which is the golden immortal body. And so what happens is that you have the when you're absorbing the blue light, you're transferring the blue light to the yang qi, which normally sinks. But since the blue light is mercury, that causes the yang qi to sublimate, and then which is basically like your you could call it your neural hormones or your cerebral spinal fluid, but it's probably more likely like your positive ions if you think of it as positive ions. So it's closely tied with like potassium because your neural hormones turn into neurotransmitters once they get into your brain. So what and the other thing that happens is that the pineal gland actually processes the third largest amount of blood after the kidneys and the heart. So all the when the blood goes up to your pineal gland, it actually turns into cerebral spinal fluid. It increases the cerebral spinal fluid amount. So when you're meditating, like in full lotus, you're increasing the blood flow up from your stomach up into the pineal gland. You're like accelerating that process, and then which would be the yin chi, and you're combining it with the yang chi, which is also going up the spine as cerebral spinal fluid, and then so eventually the cerebral spinal fluid gets so big um, because you're not losing the yang qi, and there's a connection between that, like your life force substance and and the cerebral spinal fluid, which Western science doesn't acknowledge. But so then eventually the pressure gets really strong in the skull, and as you're rotating the eyes, then that's how you create the wan qi. Well, through the heart, that's the alchemical process is by combining the different colors of the light, you're absorbing the blue light through the virtual photons, and then the virtual photons then create this golden light. Now, the interesting thing is the golden light is seen externally, but internally, you're seeing this blue light that then is absorbing the what they call the Fa Shen in Taoism, which would be is basically like the Shen, the light of the Dharmakaya. It's like the light that you can't see. So I just call that virtual photons in Western science. But anyway, so that's kind of like okay. So like I said, you got this book, this per, Pregadio, this awakening to reality. Then you also have this Foundations of Internal Alchemy, which I've read, and that's why it's dirty because I've I get things dirty fast. And then you have this one, the Seals of the Unity of Three. So it's like these are books that you can really study. But the thing about alchemy is it's all using metaphor and coded language. So you have to try to like translate it, like do the cross correlations of all the meanings of the terms and everything, and then of course to practice it is even harder because basically you're dealing with these deep subconscious emotional dynamics of the and it has to do with the organs of the body. So like if you have too much salt, that will mess up your potassium. Like I mentioned the yang qi relies on the potassium with the vagus nerve, the right side vagus nerve that's really tied to um the the parasympathetic nervous system that's tied to the yang qi, and the book Taoist Yoga, Alchemy, and Immortality. They mentioned the nervous system, to the right side of the heart. So that's so anyway. I'm just thinking like how the different colors of the light correspond with this alchemical process in terms of how you have to reverse the colors of the light, and then that's how you end up reversing the two different types of chi in the body and combining them together, and that's how you create the golden um immortal body. But the irony is that the wan chi, which is the cosmic chi, and that's also called the Tao. And so nobody can see the Tao. You can't talk about the Tao. You can listen to it. So this our all of our modern sensations are based, like our dominant perception is vision. So it's the Tao is actually based on listening. They also call it like Ting, which is like deep serenity in meditation. So then so the ultimate um step of the training is that your body actually like vaporizes back into wan chi, and you can't see it, nobody can see it, but it's just like this pure energy information. And you could call that the virtual photons too, like the virtual photons, because all of matter is made of light according to physics. Like it's not really that's not really discussed much by physicists, but that's like a lot of scientists. It's a solid argument by physicists. So at any rate, yeah. So the irony being that like if you're able to see a golden immortal body as matter, and the Yangshen can pick stuff up, and other people can see it, and but in fact, that's still just external. Like the person, there's a difference between the person who's meditating and then how they're seen externally. This is my point. It's like the golden light is seen externally, but internally they're seeing the blue light, and then um absorbing the virtual photons or the Fashen or whatever that cannot be seen. And then the reason they have to do that is because they still have some red light blockages. So the red light would be the or also black light. That's the lead. So the lead is then associated with the yang qi, which again normally would sink and leave the body for a normal person, but so then it has to be reversed to combine with the yin qi. So the yin qi doesn't normally rise up anymore. It goes down, and the yang qi goes up. And so when you keep doing that, you purify the what you are experiencing externally, and they call this like demonic whatever, whatever, like basically like low frequency light blockages that in like reality would be holographic, would be considered to be holographic, because it's like whatever you're actually experiencing. Okay, cool. So so then so then eventually that's how you eventually get beyond the golden immortal body to the point where your actual original physical body just vaporizes into this um pure wan chi, and then it will manifest the golden immortal body that people will see externally. But you know since it's an impersonal process, the only way it manifests is if the wan chi wants it to manifest, which is the immortal self of the universe or whatever. It's sort of like the Matrix movie, but I couldn't watch all the Matrix series because they just kept like getting worse and worse, I think. Anyway, um so yeah, I'll have to study these books more in detail. um but I was doing a lot of research the past couple years, and most of it in science, and studying the non-commutativity, which is like the only way that Western science could explain this stuff is through non-commutativity. And anyway, that's all I have to say really. Anybody else have anything to say? Any comments or questions? I just I don't know. I mean, I find it I find it really fascinating because they call it an ancient science, and basically, in terms of Western science, it would be called quantum biology based on non-commutativity. And this is they're like Western science or modern science. They don't even know, like I if I tried to convert this into modern science, it would be a whole new field of I mean, it would be like I've corresponded with, scientists about this, like Professor Basil J. Hiley. He published in 2022 how quantum biology has been wrong. It's been wrong to assume that you have the collapse of the wave function at the macro scale that then causes you to lose quantum coherence. And so, if you have non-commutativity, that's not true. That because non-commutativity can exist at the macro scale, and so because of that, you can have quantum biology in the macro scale, which is what alchemy is. That's what you're doing through the non-Western meditation, whether it's like Kriya yoga or the Taoist yoga or whatever. And so if you take into account non-commutativity, so there's literally like there's only like Basil J. Hiley, and he co-authored that paper with a some kind of neuroscience professor. Um, in from Finland. And so it's a chapter of a book that on quantum consciousness. But he's like the only one who realizes this is the truth of quantum biology. And there was another guy named Eddie Oceans, and he figured this out. And he was working at Stanford for the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center, and and so I discovered his work because I figured this out on my own. I'm like, somebody else must have figured it out. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's way better just to practice it because, like, if you're see, the whole point of practicing is you're using light as your reference frame. Now, in science, you're relying on external measurements, and so that's why they have the speed of light as the invariance of for the reference frame, and that the light has no rest mass, and you can't use light as a direct measurement because anytime you make a measurement, you're using matter, and matter can't go to the speed of light as an external measurement. And as soon as you practice what is it, that internal universal light palette, internal. There you go, that sums it up right there. Internal universal light palette. Yeah, so that's what makes meditation like, okay, Qigong master Yan Shin, this is how you spell his name. Qigong master Yan Shin. And I talked to Chun Yulin. Chun Yulin actually told me, he's like, I think Yan Shin's living in the US. So the gathering light technique is literally, yeah, it's literally gathering photons. So it's been proven in biophoton science, and I have the book in my room, but I'm not gonna go dig it out. But you can use Google Scholar to. I use Google Scholar mainly, or Archive, and then I use Sci-Hub. If you use Sci-Hub, you can read pretty much anything. Anyway, yeah. So our eyes. It's been proven now that our eyes emit biophotons, but they do so at such a weak intensity that, of course, most people aren't aware of it. But the more you meditate, when you turn the light around, you're building up the biophotons, and then you can once you open up the third eye, then you can emit them back out at people to heal them, and that's what I do. That's what I do that on a weak level because I just do it on the psychic level. But when you really activate the Wan Chi, then you can see ghosts, and I saw ghosts, and you can see spiritual healing, and you can see auras and stuff, and I've seen auras, but not the deeper you go, then you see more colors. Then you can see. So that's another thing that's fascinating about it. Okay, so yeah, how to store the gathered light. You store it in the lower dantian, in what's called the elixir field. That's the called the cauldron in See the okay, that's that's why this is so difficult because it's also called the mysterious valley, which is the in Chinese those two words are like male and female combined. That's what mysterious valley. Oh, that's a big point that um Pregadio he points that out. He says if you actually translate the Chinese, that it's this term mysterious valley from the Tao Te Ching. It's actually means male and female, like yin and yang combined. That's why that's my handle. Is the emptiness is yin and yang as a process. And so the problem is that you have to maintain celibacy, and of course for males, that's difficult to do because the more you build up your energy, the harder it is to maintain the celibacy. And so then you know the it went once you get to that's why like Trendy Lin that he says, if to train on an advanced level, you need to go into a retreat or go to a monastery. And and so then if you can achieve that advanced level where you fully open up the third eye, then you can recharge your energy as fast as you use it. You can recharge the Wan Chi energy through the third eye, um, if the third eye is fully open. And qigong master FEP Chow, she could do that also, where she would heal people, but then recharge the. What's really interesting is if you overuse your Wan Chi and then you do the healing, which is through these biophotons, you will experience a space time vortex, and it's like the room will spin around you, but it's not dizziness. It's literally like space time itself, and it's hard to believe. But the other thing is you start having a lot of precognitive visions, and when you have a precognitive vision or a dream, it's more real than being awake. So you start to realize that what we call physical reality as being awake is actually another type of a dream, and that the precognitive dreams that are and now this is hard to believe, right? But Roger Penrose, who as an he got a Nobel Prize, and he has his latest YouTube talks are how precognition is the truth of reality. It's like he says that our brains, like, we don't normally know it, but like if he says like in extreme sports or musicians like pianists, and I trained in piano, that's how I got into all this stuff. But he's like they literally will experience precognition. Well, that's what okay. I have a free training manual that goes into that, but essentially that's what I was talking about with like to maintain the celibacy, you have to rely on the standing meditation, and I didn't know that when I started out training. I didn't realize that the standing meditation is the foundation. And so like Chen Yilin, he did 6 hours a day of the standing meditation with his legs bent through training with his Shaolin teacher. And then and he was a professor at the time, but he was, he's still pretty young. He was like in his mid 20s or something. And then so you can maintain your celibacy by doing more and more. Eventually your thighs will be like parallel to the ground, and the only way you can do that is you have some kind of you develop like an anti-gravity. Like when I meditate, I can feel a magnetic force pulling me up, and it'll pull your spine straight. It's like a blissful magnetic, like anti-gravity. And they've discovered this in physics. They call it a new novel force. This is what Basil J. Hiley, the quantum physics professor, he discusses this. It's like this is what they call the quantum potential in Bohmian quantum physics, is that it's a non-local force from the future, and it's guiding matter, and it's also anti-gravity because it's a relativistic quantum force. So this is what you're accessing. Oh, this is what I was trying to get at, is that Qigong Master Yan Qin, he calls Qigong the highest technology of any technology. And he was doing that. He was giving these Qi talks to thousands of people at a time, and he was healing them for 7 hours of nonstop of a Qi talk. He would give it in like soccer stadiums or whatever in China, and that's how Chen Yulin first experienced qigong. Is he attended one of these because he had severe injuries from playing basketball, and also he did forced labor in the countryside for 2 years or something. Anyway, any rate, he also had severe depression from the Cultural Revolution, and and so during this 7 hour talk, he just listened to Yan Chin, and Yan Chin's like, you have to practice forgiveness. You have to even if you can't feel it, you have to pretend. Just say in your mind that you forgive, because he had his family like they had like guns at his family, shooting and locking up his family and all that, and and it's like because he was able to feel the forgiveness then and open up his heart, even at he was pretending at first, but he just kept repeating it in his mind over and over, even though he knew he was pretending. And even and then eventually he's like connected with the qigong master energy, and then his body completely transformed. He experienced the kundalini and opened up his third eye, and then he was this is a 7 hour talk. He by the end of the talk he was 80% healed, and after that he just started practicing full lotus meditation. He he said the first time he sat 2 hours nonstop full lotus was when he was watching a kung fu movie, because he was so into the movie he forgot about the pain of the full lotus. And then after that he just kept practicing 2 hours of nonstop full lotus a day, you know and just kept training like that. Okay, how so transcendence is becoming a quantum being like, yeah, I haven't seen The Watchmen, Doc Manhattan. Yeah, gratitude requires it. I don't know. I appreciate these pop culture references because I do not know them. I'm too much of a geek. I'll have to watch those movies now. Um, I think okay, I go to the movie theaters occasionally, though. I watch movies. I started watching The Addams Family yesterday. That was fun. Hey, hello, good day. So, um, let's see. I could tell lots of Chinese stories, but I don't know. He might get mad at me, but he probably will. I guess forgiveness is required. Yeah, forgiveness, gratitude, like these he talks about, from especially from Buddhism, where there's like kindness, love, and forgiveness are the three main emotions that this was before his Shaolin training. The very first thing he did was he heard this Qigong master was coming to town. It was Yan Xin, and Chen Yi lived in Guangdong, which is like, I think that used to be Canton. It's a major city in China. It's on the coast, I think, and it's like a capital of the province. And so they had, the only thing is you're required to stay there for the whole 7 hours. It's like no bathroom breaks, like it's a like the Chinese, this was in the 80s. So the back in the 80s, China was still fairly traditional. Jackie Chan. This is beyond Jackie Chan. Sorry to tell you, but this is what Chen Yi ended up doing is he went back to China after he was in Minnesota, and he did the 28 days of nonstop full lotus meditation at Mount Qingchen. Mount Qingchen. Hey, hi Irma. I know I'm doing a pop up for a little bit longer, probably like another 15 minutes or something. Hey Juliana, thank you. Is there any info on emergency methods if you're going to die before you're emergency methods? That's a good question. Let's see. I have to think about that one. Um, actually, okay. Well, my dad fasted before he, he passed on. I I He's the first time I detected a heart blockage in anybody. I had never detected a heart blockage except in my dad, and then I had this precognitive vision. I'm like, my dad's dying. My dad died, and I ran upstairs, and his bedroom door was closed, and I'm like, I don't want to disturb him, and because he was kind of. And then the next morning, I found his blue body, and as soon as I saw his blue body, I just felt this amazing love, like the most love I've ever felt. And I told Jim Nance about it, and because I knew that my dad was feeling that same love now that he had left his body, And if you read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they actually explain this. They say, like, right when a person dies, they'll go into the absolute void of what they call like the Dharmakaya, and you experience the greatest bliss and the greatest joy, and the light is super super bright. And so what happens is that most people's soul cannot handle it because they still have these emotional blockages in their spirit. And so then that's why the typical ghost will be powered by the yin chi, because you haven't activated the wan chi, you haven't built up the wan chi. Even like in Mahayana Buddhism, what they teach is that if your body becomes ill before you pass on, then you will lose the connection with the Wanchi, because the connection with the Wanchi is through the mind, through the spirit, in the body. And so then by integrating the yin and yang chi in the body. So if you don't maintain the body purification, then you lose that Wanchi connection. And what happens is your spirit will then like go out of your body, um based on where the intention is in your bodies. So what happens is that the 28 days, no, that was Chen Yilin. He did 28 days of full lotus. He was in full lotus, Padma asana nonstop for 28 days. With his feet up on his thighs, like this, right? Like that. So he did that 28 days in the cave, with no sleep. No sleep. Um He had a little bit of food at the beginning, but, like, he had a few apples. I think he had, like, 6 small apples and, like, 6 little bottles of water for the 28 days, that's it. And then oh, no, it's not. See, that's just my point, is that, Chenny Lin makes this point too. He says, "Well, it's okay for people to be sad, but in fact, like the Tibetan Book of the Dead explains this, like, at the moment of death, you experience the greatest love you'll ever experience in your life, because you're going through the heart, right? So it kinda makes sense. But so then and that's what Chen Yi said. He said that he went to heaven because he did 28 days of nonstop meditation with no sleep, and, in full lotus. And and so, yeah, he said it was the greatest experience of his life, and he'd like to do it again. And I don't know, maybe he'll. And that's how you develop the Yang Shen, immortal golden body. And he said he knows people who have developed it. And I even asked him at the level 3 retreat in 2000. I asked him if he had developed the Yang Shen, and he said that when he was meditating in his home in China, that people had seen him walking around outside his home. And so that's what he told me. And so he implied that, like, you can bilocate, like, if you read the biography of Pun, Punjaji, his biography is called Nothing Ever Happened. And he they apparently it was his birthday in India, and all these people wanted him to come to their houses for his birthday, and he went to 6 different houses at the same time. Well, that it's not exactly at the same time, but that's the other thing, is like, is a different reality for what you perceive externally versus what is happening inside the person meditating. Because for the person meditating, it is at the same time, because the future and the past is overlapping as you're meditating. but of course, externally, it's going to be slightly different space times for every person. Like anyway. But the thing is that he didn't. Punjaji did not know he did it. He did not consciously know he created these other bodies. In other words, you can bilocate but not be aware that it happened. And I think that's what happened with Chini Lin also. So we are free as spirit when the body dies. We are moving as spirit in a strange world full of circles and angles. In returning to God, we stay away from angles. Ah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, well, um, I think like like if you look at like the book of Genesis says God said, "Let there be light." And people normally people they just kind of they don't think about the said part. They just think about the light part because we're very visually oriented. And 80% of our brain is used for like two-thirds of our brain is used for vision. So that's why, your brain's like 25 watts. So when you close your eyes, you're all of a sudden you're that's like two-thirds of 25. It's like whatever, like 17 watts or something that you're all of a sudden that was used for vision, and now you're able to turn that around and visualize. So you so but the so then so it's like actually you know the the foundation of reality, you cannot see it, and that's very difficult for people to accept that they cannot see the truth, because you got the saying, seeing is believing. Most people, they want something that's repeatable, and it's standardized. um and so, yeah, so this is like even from the near death experiences, they'll say, well, you could, like, God is the breath of the universe. It's like this pulsating thing that you can feel it, but you can't see it. So, I don't know. It's kind of like even Roger Penrose, he says the truth of the universe is pure time, and there's no size in the before the Big Bang and after the acceleration expansion of the universe. That time still exists, but there's no size to it. So it's like even most scientists, they can't handle that. They Okay. Well, what type of meditation technique did he use? I know you said he sat lotus style, but um oh, okay. Idioms, cool. I like that. I was just saying that word the other day. Said to my mom about I said this idiom that I never said out loud before. I'm trying to remember what it was. The technique is, well, okay. He's Chunny Lin says the small universe meditation can take you to the most advanced level of creating the golden. It creates the Yangshen that technique will. Now what happens is eventually, well, seal the senses, cycle the chi, absorb the chi from areas, or go outside the body and bring in ingredients and then cycle. Okay, so the Wan Chi is neither inside nor outside. It's beyond any kind of spatial concept. And that's why it's so difficult for people to wrap their head around it, because and that's why, like, the holographic universe um metaphor, it makes sense, because actually what we experience internally happens before what we experience externally. It as a precognitive. um this is what the 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 Louis de Broglie law of phase harmony. It says that there's this pilot wave from the future that's guiding matter. And so, like, even so there's this information from the future, and we can experience that internally before we experience it externally, because with our eyes open, everything is like in the past, essentially. And so, um if you take like really strong psychedelic, DMT, plant-based DMT, you can oh I did that in full lotus, and then you can also experience that realm. What in meditation they call it the rainbow body, But it's, I mean, ultimately, the rainbow body is your physical body would vaporize back into rainbow light, you know. But in Buddhism, they say that even that is not the final stage. The final stage is this Dharmakaya that you can't see it. You can't see it. So that's why it's in India they call it formless awareness. Formless awareness as the truth of the self. And in Western philosophy, they call it creatio ex nihilo. Creatio ex nihilo, which means creation out of nothing. But that's actually in Christianity. They teach it, or it's in Judaism or okay. It's both the body and spirit simultaneously. Yeah, they call it the harmony of heaven and earth. And so normally with we have left brain dominance. Like when I'm talking to you now, that's left brain dominance. And so the yang qi is right brain dominant. So you use the visualization because your right brain is proven that's frequency. Like when you listen to music, that's the frequency of music is right brain dominant. And so then we the what's really fascinating is that the vagus nerve, the right side vagus nerve, it connects to the left side of the brain, but the left side vagus nerve does not connect to the right side of the brain. And then the right side vagus nerve goes down to the lower body, and that's what processes all your deep subconscious emotions. And there's even like for mammals, there's something called the freeze reaction because it's from our reptilian evolution. And so like if somebody experiences really deep trauma, immediately their body will go into a deep relaxation as a freeze reaction, and that's not conducive to survival. But the thing is that we cannot help it because that's what we did as reptiles. Is and um so the kundalini is actually this right side vagus nerve. And so what you're doing is you're consciously activating it, and then you're doing that through deep relaxation. But the best way to do that is through this is what you do is it's called parasympathetic rebound. So you have an extreme sympathetic nervous system activation, and the easiest way to do that is standing with your knees bent, and that because your legs are very strong, stronger than your arms. And so when you stand with your knees bent and your legs start shaking like that, well, it turns out you can harmonize with the earth's energy with your legs shaking. And in trance drum, the trance drumming is like 7 to 9 beats per second is what they did some study where they found that that was the most common trance drumming tempo or meter. I don't know. It's but anyway, rhythm. But that's the earth Schumann resonance is this 8 hertz. Now what Andrija Puharich figured out was that the protons and electrons in the body, they have this reverse time, what's called like a quantum undertone. So you literally have a reverse time from the future. So the like the blue light in terms of the chakras, the blue light is in your brain, but actually in terms of the reverse time, the blue light has to be connected back to the yang qi, which normally would sink down to the lower body. So you have this earth Schumann resonance with your legs shaking, and then that causes this deep relaxation. It gets kind of complicated. Kind of like hemisync. Well, the thing is that hemisync, yeah, the binaural beats with a slightly different phase difference. You're doing that all the time, but with your with your left and right ear. And so the what's really fascinating and what hardly anybody knows this, but in tinnitus research, they discovered that the highest sound we hear externally actually resonates the brain internally as ultrasound. And then in quantum biology, they've proven that the ultrasound then resonates the microtubules in the neurons with the tubulin as a quantum coherence, and that gets you into this quantum, what they call quantum undertones or quantum beats, or Roger Penrose, he calls it negative resonance. Negative resonance. Yeah, the hemisync is good. It's just that when you actually use the legs with the standing exercise, the legs are much more powerful than your arms, and so you're creating like now you can get this you can get ultrasound treatment, you can get parasympathetic activation where they'll put like implants in people and stuff. You can just do that with your legs. Like if your legs start shaking like that, you can activate your vagus nerve, naturally, and then you can also resonate it with an earth's natural energy. But the problem is that because of our modern homes, we're completely cut off from the Schumann resonance. Because it's the Schumann resonance actually works with the spin of the photons in the with creating electrochemical signals with the via the biophotons. And this has been a hypothesis of how birds migrate, but they haven't totally proven it yet. And so a lot of scientists are parascience. Yeah. The Okay, let me read up the comments here. I get It took me learning that to get the 70% weight right in standing. Oh, with the oh, okay. What's the V? I've heard of the vena cava, but which is that? That must be a leg artery. No, let me look it up real quick. Vena cava. Okay, it's a large vein that carries the blood to the heart. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the I'm probably gonna have to sign off pretty soon here. Yeah. So the what's really interesting about the 70%, are you talking about like in our five elements practice? Trini Lin says put 70% of your weight on the right leg and then you're stretching side to side. Now that's for the leg, the lung, that's the yang qi of the lung organ, which is also metal in alchemy. Now, what's really fascinating about that? Okay, great. Yeah, the if you I looked into that and I mentioned it in my review of the five elements CD or X or whatever class that Chinese created, but I didn't know that like I think it's the interior meridian line of of your legs is the yang qi. It's either interior or exterior. I think it's interior. So when you're doing that stretch, you're stretching those tendons and ligaments and all that, and so that's why in the Nagong as internal alchemy, they really because your collagen is the most common protein in your body, but it's 90% vertically aligned. And so when you do the standing exercises, the collagen it's piezoelectric. And so that's how you're creating the yin qi is through that piezoelectric and then also the yang qi. Okay. No, I don't know. The right side vagus nerve, I talked about the vagus nerve, but it's hooked up with that the vein to the right side of the heart. I think that's probably what that's talking about. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Any other questions though? Because I could talk about pretty much anything that sometimes during practice I feel like it's not long, but it's been an hour. Yeah. Are you doing the five elements with us or the class that I've been doing? How many people here are actually doing the class sometimes? I'm just curious. Yeah, that's another real interesting thing about meditation that like the when you build up the energy, you actually need less sleep. And um there's another guy, Hai Dong. I don't know how to say his name, but Hai Don, I think it's Hai Don. He was at Shaolin also, but he technically he wasn't a Shaolin abbot, but he trained like he was a Taoist. He said he did not sleep for 60 years. He never slept for 60 years. He just meditated all night long. And I know, thank you, Irma. I I'm the class, it's like it's a group energy, so it's all about the everybody contributes to the energy. That's what makes it Yeah, the class is free. You can join at any time, but it's I do it pretty much every day unless I have some schedule conflict. Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, the I did a follow-up interview with Julia on her channel. I don't know if you've seen that, but Julia Commons got an interview with me. Um okay. Yeah, so you can just go to my live channel. You can replay them and oh. Well, that's sometimes, especially during the full moon. Full moon, I can really feel this like strong magnetic bliss in the center of the brain, and Chenny Lin says the meditation's like 10 times stronger 3 days before and after the full moon. Um, but of course, like it's for the advanced level of energy, it's very you basically have to fast to purify the energy, and then you have to like meditate all the time. So I call it like taking off the rocket boosters because you go into free energy. Um, the class is on my YouTube channel, so I don't know how to link to my own channel. You just go to the live video section. I think I can find it. Oops. Um, let me see. Here's one. Is that I don't know if that works because it says owner on the link, so I don't know if that's gonna work for you. I got that in my email. I fell asleep the other night listening to the Gateway, a drool patch. Well, that's a good sign, right? Like, I don't know. Like if you're really relaxed, I know cats do that when I pet when I'm farm sitting the cat, when I'm petting it, when cats make that purring sound, they're actually healing their bones. It's been proven that that's another like Schumann resonance example of energy piezoelectric activation through the sound or through the vibration. And then the cat just starts drooling and drooling because it's getting that deep vagus nerve healing energy. So cats like they're doing qigong naturally. Is there is there signs of having cleared meridian, or is there a practice? Um I know I really need to wash my pillow covers because I'm not gonna go into it, but I think I just thought I was going to do. Yeah. Hello, Mo. Yeah, I know the cats. What can you say? They're. I had this huge cat I got from Alaska. When I was in Alaska, this cat showed up under my cabin, and actually, my I was there with my friend, but she basically let me. I was more attached to the cat, I guess, but um, yeah. So let's see what else. How is there signs of having cleared meridian? Um, Okay, well, Chinny, he knows the cleared meridian. How would be a sign for me? I know it through the third eye. I know it. I I have stories about that, but if you he teaches the healing other people for the level 2 qigong, and it's basically like what level you're what's interesting about healing is that somebody will have a physical symptom, but that might not be the cause of the problem because the cause might be emotional. It might be in another part of their body based on the meridians. And um because so that and what I have experienced from the psychic healing that I did in public, I would just sit in full lotus all the time, which I burned up my energy by doing that. I burned up my yang chi or my wan chi even. I don't know. I'm still alive, thankfully. But anyway, the like you literally the emotions are directly tied to the organs of the body, and it's very difficult for us to believe. So, for example, I was sitting in full lotus in Burger King, in the booth in Burger King, reading because this is what I would do. I'd read one scholarly book a day, and And this I looked up and there was this really big, Native American fellow, he and we made eye contact, right? And so then I immediately looked back down at my book, but as soon as I he was still looking at me because I could feel my liver was burning after we made eye contact, and immediately realized he had a, liver blockage that causes anger. And so I didn't my third eye was picking this up, the pineal gland. And so then I just kept reading my book, but I'm sitting in full lotus and I'm experiencing this through the right brain and the my liver getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And then so then I realized he sat behind me like in another booth, at the end of the wall, the other wall. And so then as I sat in full lotus, the liver energy then transferred down to my kidneys, and then it went up the front of my body through the heart and then out the my pineal gland. Now you're not supposed to do this. This is like dirty psychic tantra healing, psychic healing, but this is what I was doing. And so then I could feel the energy going out of my pineal gland, out of the back of my skull, back into him. And so at this the energy just kept cycling like that. And as it cycled, my liver got less and less hot. It was burning hot, and then it got less and less and less and hot, and it went back to normal. And so I'm like, then I felt safe. I'm like, okay, well, his liver anger is gone now because my liver, holographically, my liver is no longer burning hot. It's cooled back down to normal. And I could feel the energy that went back into him out of my pineal gland. Now, in reality, I'm just sitting there reading while this is happening. I'm in full lotus reading, but so I just kept on reading, and then all of a sudden, I noticed somebody came up to my booth, and I look over, and he's like a really big guy, and he's Native American. I look up, and he just says, "Thank you," and that's it. And I was like, "Wow!" Like he actually consciously could acknowledge what had happened between us. And of course, I couldn't talk because when you're doing that psychic, like when you're reversing the energy, it also pulls up the anaerobic bacteria from your intestines. So I had tea tree oil with me because tea tree oil is antiseptic, and I would use that. I didn't dare say a word to the guy. I just smiled and I went back to reading. And I'm like, okay, that like the fact that he thanked me, that was just that's like, but that just shows like my liver stopped getting hot, so I cleared out that meridian blockage. That's to answer your question about how you know if a blockage gets cleared out. I'm working on making simoscopes. Oh, nice. Yeah, the thing about cymatics, if you look at the very end of Hans Jenny's book on cymatics, he discusses the Pythagorean tetractys, but he doesn't really focus on it through the rest of his book. So that so it's cool. It's a cool thing where you're dealing with these rational ratios, creating these visual patterns. But in the end, the actual Pythagorean tetractys is what Western science are called non-commutative. So those rational ratios are both the undertones and overtones at the same time, and therefore you can't actually visualize the resonance that's going on because it's like from the future. So the cymatics, um, it's it's a neat, it's it's a really cool thing, but it's not the same as meditation. I'll just say that. Oh yeah, yeah. See the thing about frequency. See, when I was learning, I started music training when I was 5 years old. Started classical piano. But I had gone to my mom's piano lessons starting at age 3, and the piano teacher was freaking out, like, "He can't sit in here." My mom's like, "No, no, he'll be quiet," and I was, but at any rate, then I took, adult music theory when I was a teenager because my piano teacher taught it in the evenings, and she invited me to take it, and I was like I think I must have been 16, and she was explaining the basic, like perfect fifth and perfect fourth and the octave, and so the perfect fifth, you have like, you have three halves is the ratio, and so it's C to G, but then for some reason you cannot have two-thirds as a perfect fifth, even though two-thirds is a it's empirically it is a perfect fifth as C to F. And so, but it's not allowed in Western tuning to have two-thirds as a frequency for the perfect fifth. Now, I asked my other music teacher about it, who happened to be her husband, and he was a university music professor, and he took me on as his private student. And so he taught me orchestration and ear training and music composition. And so when I my first year of college, I tested into the third year of music theory at the when I went out east. But at any rate, he just told me, well, it's logarithms. It's logarithms. That's why you cannot have two-thirds as a perfect fifth. And but to me, I since I started music at such a young age, I my my understanding of music was based on listening, on the experience of listening. So like for example, like in blues music, you know, you have the perfect fifth and it pulls to the octave, the perfect fourth. And that just continually goes on. The perfect fourth, you know, the 1 4 5 in blues, that's the foundation of all music, is that those three basic music intervals. And the empirical truth is that they continue infinitely. I found this book called Music, Science and Music by Sir James Jeans. And he says that the empirical truth of music is this infinite spiral, as for the Pythagorean tuning. Now it turns out that that is non-commutative. That's so when people learn frequency, they end up learning the wrong music theory. It was from Philolaus. What Philolaus did is he flipped his lyre around, and so then he argued that you could create the perfect fifth from the. It gets complicated, but you know I could go into it. Okay, great. Yeah, I was actually in the music composition degree program at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the professors there, they had bragged that they could get any of us into Princeton for graduate school because that's where they were from, and they were into this serialistic, computer serialism, and it was all atonal. I'm like, "Nobody's gonna listen to this," and they got really mad at me, and then, I was gonna do a self-directed, blues music, global blues is what I called it. And it turned out Jim Nance, I had no idea he was actually in a global blues music band around the same time. Anyway, I was taking orchestration, and I got like A's and B's, and then I had to transpose a Schoenberg string quartet or a Schoenberg piano sonata into a string quartet. So I did the transposition, and then I got called in for a meeting. And at the same time, I was doing environmental activism. I was part of the University of Wisconsin Greens, and we were always protesting about, you know, all sorts of stuff on the mall. The mall was right by the music building. Anyway, so my teacher calls me in to, he said, like, I gotta have a meeting with you. And he's like, I get in there and he takes out my orchestration and he says, "This is communism." And I'm looking at him like, I'm so shocked that he's calling it communism. And then he goes, he goes, "You need to redo all your past assignments." And I had already gotten A's and B's on my past assignments. So I'm like in such shock. I started to tear up because I'm just like, what is happening? And after that, I just like dropped out of the program because like this is so stupid. Like, why would I even deal with this idiotic stupidity? Yeah, I know. Like, how could a Schoenberg music? But then I thought about it, I'm like, well, they went to Princeton, and Princeton's like is like there's probably a lot of like spooks at Princeton. Oh, the other thing is the CIA funded avant-garde music. Like they actually funded it as supposed to be like freedom and everything. So who knows? Hey, thanks for your time. Okay, we'll see you later. See you later, business. Yeah, I could go on about music. See, okay, this idea of seeing music is interesting. Like I really enjoy listening to music because I can see you can kind of when you hear you know, you can see the actual music on piano. So you're playing the whole orchestra. orchestral score. And this is what Alon Khan, he argues that that experience of orchestral transposition is what non-commutative reality actually is. And if you try to do that, it's a serious brain twister. Like your brain is like, have you ever done orchestration? Have you done have you done actual orchestral transposition on piano? I wish I had kaleidoscopic vision. I don't see okay. Oh, you got to try that. It's I did that as a teenager and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." Um look, it wasn't as hard as the piano concert by memory, doing a classical piano concert by memory. That's my hands are just like ice cold. Um, yeah, well, Chenny Lin, he just tells me I think too much, which I do. That's like, and then Jim Nat says I have a brain blockage, because it's like the kaleidoscopic vision. You have to be right brain dominant for meditation. It's best to be silent and just use visualization, but you're also listening. You're listening, and so that if you read like Zen stuff, they'll talk about seeing with your eyes. And the other thing about like with the energy, the left eye is yin chi, but the left ear is yang chi. So they're reversed. And the reason that is because the with music, the cerebellum actually controls the music. Like your cerebellum controls your emotion and motion of the body. And so like with your vision, it's cross wired in your brain. So your left brain's your right eye and vice versa. But with the listening, it's directly wired, or not, maybe not listening, but rhythm is. So like it's there's a deeper secret to listening to music that Western science doesn't acknowledge. That's what this non-commutativity stuff is about. They Right, that's the tingle. That's what's called, they call that frisson. Now that's your vagus nerve being activated by the listening to the music. I know, same word, tingles. But the other thing, like in Western music, it's pretty much limited to the tingles, like the dope. That's from dopamine getting activated. But what I discovered in my classical music training was that when I memorized Bach's Italian Concerto in F major, the middle movement is at 60 beats per minute, which is 1 second, and that's the same as your heartbeat because that's how Galileo came up with this. The I don't know the timing, but um, so when I memorized that 60 beats per second, I have to practice over and over, and it opened up my heart energy. So I experienced this great joy, and I didn't know why. I was just super happy all the time, and I had this like heat and joy from the heart because of playing this slow 60 beats per minute. And that's what the small universe is. When we do the small universe, you're synchronizing your listening of your brain with your breathing. And so by and your thoughts and your visualization, and you when you do that at 60 beats per minute, it all goes back to the heart. And so the heart then is the source of the wan chi in the body, and that eventually goes beyond being alive, or that's like the energy of the universe, of your soul or whatever. And so in other words, Western music, when we get the chills and tingles, that's still in the dopamine. But when we slow down, when we activate the heart, that's actually getting into the serotonin and the oxytocin. And serotonin, it's been proven that that's the blue light. That's why, like at night, I wear red glasses they're called like raw. They're I think that's the company name. But anyway, so that because the blue light will mess up your melatonin. The blue light serotonin, right? But what you want is oxytocin and melatonin, and you do that through the right side vagus nerve, and that's what gets you into kundalini, and the difference between females being yang internally, because when females experience bliss, um, that's the right side vagus nerve, whereas for males, it triggers the sympathetic nervous system when they lose the yang qi. And so what happens is that most males, they just stay in this lower frequency of light. So their intention, it's stuck in their lower bodies still. So that their like intention being the like your soul, your intention is like the magnetic moment of the virtual photons. So it's like your soul intention based on the frequency of light in your body. And so some people, so that's what happens when a person dies. It because in Taoism they teach like heaven and earth, heaven and hell is actually in your body. You're living it while you're alive. So that's what happens when you die, is that you're based on the frequency of light where your intention is like that. Um Gurdjieff, he called it the center of gravity in your body. So where the center of gravity is in your body, then that's what will happen to you in the afterlife. I know I had a high school friends like, "You're a stoner, right?" And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I mean, I didn't care that she was a stoner, like, we drove across the country together, but it was and then I realized, "Wait a second." And then I got an EEG for this paid medical study at University of Wisconsin, and the nurse, she literally exclaimed in shock, she goes, "Your alpha brainwaves are really strong." And it's like I'm in this like um blissed out trance state all the time. I was this was before I did any qigong. I didn't even know about qigong. Sebastian, nice, nice to meet you. Yep, people call me Drew. Okay, I'm gonna sign off now. I've been just rambling. I've been in about 4 bands as vocalist. Oh, nice. The tongue drum. That's your band name, the tongue drum. Cool. I like that. Do you have any can you post your songs on your YouTube channel? I love listening to, especially female singers. I just like that's my like the Sound Bushmen, that's how they did the healing, was the females would sing all night long, and then males would dance. Right on. That's cool. I know. I bet the male would be surprised because or whoever. It's the male. I'm assuming. Hello, Mike. All right, I'm about to sign off because I'm stealing away some private time to do this. Oh, it's an actual drum you play, huh? The tongue drum. I've never heard of a tongue drum. Is there some secret meaning to that? Maybe post a video. Oh, you're welcome. Hey, if I can just ramble and you think it's awesome, then pan drum? Is that I don't is that a tongue drum? Pan drum? What's the idiom I was trying to think of the other day? I've never heard of a tongue drum. Now I gotta find out what it is. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for the love. I anyway. Oh wow. That's really that's so awesome. Yeah. Well, we gotta pray for the people of Ukraine. Hang drum. See you. See you, no fly zone. So, all right, I'm done. I'm done preaching, preaching to the choir. Okay, I'm signing off. Take care. Take care. I don't even use emoticons, so I'm behind the times. Thanks. You're welcome. Yeah. Oh, just to let people know that we're taking Wednesday off. I was told we get a free day. There's a bonus day in the 100-day gong for the 5 elements. Um, so Wednesday will be the 49th day, but it's like we did the practice, but we don't have to do it. So, um, so there will not be class on Wednesday. Inshallah, inshallah. Who knows what's gonna happen? Praying, right? Okay, so long. Thanks to everybody.